So welcome to our first Teach the Training session for our trainees on the bridge. The Bridge is a fascinating book. It has all the secrets of the Kabbalah and Chassidut embedded into this format that is written so that a layperson can read it. If that's the case, then why do we need teachers to teach it? If it's so well written, we don't need teachers. The truth of the matter is that it isn't like an award-winning novel, creative book. In other words, there's nothing in there that you can say, oh, that's never been revealed in the world before. In fact, the opposite. Everything that's written in there seems to make a lot of sense and to be not obvious, but certainly not unobvious. And so why do we need the teachers? Because the real secret to this book is in its application. You can read it and it makes sense and your life could still be the same. But to read it in a way that actually impacts in your life and changes it, because that's what we're trying to do, trying to change our lives to the better. For that you need a level of integration and embracing that is the role really of the teacher. The teacher is not only to impart the information, but to explain where that idea applies in life, in our lives, and how to integrate it. And so we always have to think about this as we go through the material of the book. We have to have like two hats on our heads. The first is, do we understand the message? Can we understand the information? And the second is, how do we apply this in different circumstances? And the third is, how do we integrate it into our lives? Because those the second and third areas is where the teacher comes in its force. So I want to also to bring to your attention the idea of who your target audience is. Who are you trying to develop this teaching to? Because that will affect the examples you bring and how to integrate them into our lives. For example, you have, in your case, Moshe, an expertise and an ability in guiding youth, young men who are developing and need guidance. So when we go through this material, what I'm going to ask you to do is to think about the situations and the conditions which would apply to those kind of people. What are the examples that bring this idea up most, so that you can give those as examples and make it accessible to that audience. And also, the second part of the work as a teacher is that we're going to be actually helping people to navigate through this material through exercises. We're going to give them exercises to do, and as a result of this exercises, they learn and they integrate. And so, what kind of exercises would be most beneficial or most applicable to that audience group that you're trying to target? So in your case, we're targeting, perhaps we could be targeting the youth. There are other very important markets. For example, the corporate market. The corporate market has the advantage that there are many people that want to improve and embrace, and they've got the money to back and train their staff. And so, to the extent that we can work out how does this book affect the corporate world, teams, organizations will also color the way we present it to the audience. So that's something to bear in mind. So the skill here, and each teacher will have his own or her own method of doing this. The skill is how to explain it and integrate it through the questions that we ask our attendees to go through. And one of the things that we'll be doing in this course is to train you, or to encourage you, to work out the right questions to ask and to put in with each chapter, so that at the end of each, so you have two parts of what you're doing. The first thing is to give over the information. That's the first part. And the second part is to give over the questions that you want them to participate in. And the third is to integrate those answers in a way that enhances communication and community as a third, as a group coordinating activity. So with that, all that introduction in mind, I just wanted to put you into the mindset I think that it would be most effective. We're going to break down the book into 16 different stations or compartments. Each one has relevance and connection with the others, but they're on its own subject. And so the idea is that each week we'll go through one of those 16 subjects. So we have, when we're giving over the material, we have it in two sessions. The first is to give over the material, and I've broken it in such a way that we're trying to get the material transferred in half-an-hour doses. So you will have a half an hour of explaining, and then leaving 10 minutes for questions, and then another session after that in the same week will be to discuss, to give over the at the same time you give over the questions that you want them to go through to integrate the material, and then you have a session where you hear the answers and you have an opportunity for them to discuss with you. Because there are two ways of doing this course. The first is to just sign in and do it digitally with no connection at all, just playing the plays. And the second is this integrative method where you have a chance to ask and to share your thoughts as you go through it. And that's what we need the second session for. So it's 2 sessions a week. One to give over the information, at the end of which you give over the questions. They answer the questions, and then you have another session to go through the answers. So let's talk about what is it in the book that we're giving over, and this is like an intro to the book. I would say that the bridge is a fascinating journey into the depths of the human soul. The human soul is something that has captivated the minds and imagination of philosophers for millennium, and understanding it is as difficult as understanding Hashem, because it's not something you can hold and touch and measure. And so it's a fascinating journey into the soul. And the clarity that we get as a result of this work of going through the bridge, through the Gesher, is that it gives us tools to manage the different opposing forces within us that make up the human creation. And it's this inner experience of learning to channel the energies into the right place that releases us of the barriers and stress and worries that hinder us from becoming our best versions. the feeling of inner harmony and peace is what we're trying to achieve. And what we're discovering through this book is that it's not difficult to solve. Nothing we're going to present is difficult in terms of its understanding. It's difficult in its application, because we've been built as humans with certain tendencies and desires, and this book shows us how to control those energies to create harmony and peace. And it's that control that's difficult, not the thinking within it. But it gives us a chance to clear our glasses, to look at life in a much more healthy and correct way, in a true way, in a much more Jewish way. And as a result of that, when everything is in line, then all the problems that we inevitably have in life get resolved. And that's the process that we're trying to achieve. And within each section, we'll have the basic information, and then we'll have the questions that we want them to ponder on, and then we have that integrative discussion, how to integrate those ideas in. So that's really just in a nutshell what we're trying to do. And as part of this course, we're actually going to be creating the template that will be available for people who want to do the course without any interaction to actually go it through. So you're in the process of learning Wix Studio, and I had the thought that this would be a great platform to put on Wix Studio. In other words, it'll give us the ability to record the sessions, so we can put the video on there. We will have my notes of each class, which will be a Word document in there. Then your work will be, Moshe, is to take that class and say, okay, what questions could I ask a typical audience that would really explain where those ideas come into our lives, and then the last section is how to integrate it. In other words, what meditation can we recommend to the clients, to the trainees, as a method of integrating it into their lives, a practice, if you like. That's a practice. So again, just to cover, the first part is the video information. The second part is your analysis of where it affects us in our lives. The third part is what questions should we ask that really bring this out. And the fourth one is what advice or practice can we recommend as a conclusion to that session that will help people to integrate it into their lives. So it's not just an academic training. It is a practical and a lifestyle training, and that's where they need our help. It's how to integrate it into their lives, and that's really your role as a learner. So if you have that in mind as we go through the material, then you'll apply those 4 requirements class by class, write them up class by class, and then you have at the end of the program a ready-made template that people can just plug into and get everything out of it. So that is the intention, and that's the approach. Just to let you know that my wife is doing an equivalent thing for women, so I'm going to leave her to handle all the women's in-depth angle of this, although we will be touching on some differences between men and women, just so that men can know that there is differences between men and women. But again, our audience is very much the men, in your case, younger men perhaps. But also I want you to bear in mind this other market, which is the corporate market. There is a third market that we're going to be applying the bridge to, and that is the military market, armies, the IDF, and that's a whole different program. But it's also good for us to bear in mind that that is a third market that will be benefiting from this, and so there will be some times when we will want to bring that in as a specific example to what we're trying to explain. Any questions from your point of view?
No, it sounds good. No, in the area like teaching youth, it's, whether in schools or say camp settings or things like that, it's common to do some kind of learn some materials, and then take it out into either outside the classroom, outside in order to and break into small groups.
Great.
In the corporate world, I've often been part of these kinds of things where they're trying to create some sort of motivational adventure, as well as what you mentioned, the communication and the bonding of the group. And this is also something that applies, where you'll be given material and then you'll break into smaller groups, and it might be small, come in the same day, or it could be extended over long periods of time.
Right, exactly right. And so as we're embarking on this exercise, because it's a 4-month exercise, it's good to know all these things in advance so that you can build them into that program as you go through. Okay, good. So what we'll start is with our first lesson next week, and I'll show you in a minute the sort of note formats that you'll be getting, and I'll send it to you before the class, because I'd like you to think already in advance what questions that you think are most appropriate to ask. Okay, great. Welcome. I hope you enjoy the class and the course, and that as a result of it, you'll be well certified to be not only a teacher but a consultant, a coach, a life coach with regards to the philosophy of the bridge, which is based on the truth of Torah as opposed to any other methodology. Okay, thank you so much.